It was 11:45 p.m. when my phone lit up on the nightstand. A single notification from my mother, Patricia. I unlocked it, expecting an emergency. Instead, it was a photo. My childhood bedroom, except it now looked like a dump site. My books, awards, clothes, everything was stuffed into black garbage bags. Beneath it, a caption read, "We need this room for Brooke's new walk-in closet. Pick up your stuff by morning or it goes to Goodwill." 3 seconds later, another notification appeared. My sister Brooke had hearted the message. Before we get to how Kelsey reacts to this level of disrespect, drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I always enjoy seeing our community check in. My reaction was immediate tears. I froze completely. I just stared at the screen until it went dark again. For 29 years, I had been the unseen backbone of this family. My parents, Gary and Patricia, lived in a world where appearance was their only priority. To the neighbors in Spokane, they looked like old money country club members with a Mercedes in the driveway and a daughter, Brooke, who was rising fast in public relations. To me, they were a financial pit. They had no idea that I knew about the foreclosure warnings from 5 years earlier. They didn't know I was the one logging into my father's bank account every month to pay off the $15,000 credit card debt he built trying to look wealthy. I worked as a logistics manager. My entire job focused on moving assets efficiently, catching problems early, and preventing collapse. And for a decade, my own family had been the biggest crisis I was managing. I still remember the first bill I paid for them. I was 22, fresh out of college with a degree I financed myself. My mother called me crying because her card got declined at the store. It wasn't even for groceries. It was champagne for Brooke's graduation party. I paid it. I convinced myself it was a one-time situation. Then it became the electric bill, then the car lease, then Brooke's rent because she couldn't focus on her career while worrying about finances. Why did I do it? Why did I pour nearly half of my income into a family that treated me like a spare part? For years, I said it was obligation. But looking at that photo, my life bagged up like trash to make space for Brooke's shoes, I finally understood the truth. It wasn't obligation. It was rent. When you grow up as the extra piece in a system built around someone else, you start believing that your existence is a debt, that you haven't earned the space you occupy. So you pay for it. You pay quietly. You pay financially. You pay with your dignity, hoping that if you give enough, you'll eventually be valued. I had accepted their behavior so fully that I believed it was normal. I convinced myself that if I kept the lights on, it didn't matter that they left me in the dark. But now the rent had increased. They didn't just want my money. They wanted to erase me entirely. They wanted to replace my childhood with another closet for the golden child. The message was clear. We don't need you. We only need what you provide. I stood up and walked to my desk. I didn't drive to their house to argue. I didn't call them in anger. I sat down at my computer and opened a spreadsheet I hadn't touched in years. It was titled Family Support. I had documented every bill, every transfer, every bailout. I scrolled to the bottom. The number wasn't just a total. It was a summary of my own misplaced loyalty. $250,000. That was the price I paid to belong to a family that had just pushed me out. I closed the laptop. The sadness I expected never came. Instead, everything became crystal clear. They wanted me gone. Fine, but they forgot one basic rule. If you remove the load-bearing wall, the whole structure collapses. A week passed without mention of my things. I assumed they were either donated or thrown out. I didn't ask. I didn't check. I focused on work, managed my shipments, and waited. And I absolutely knew, the silence wouldn't last. Silence doesn't cover expenses. On Tuesday, the summons arrived. It wasn't a request, it was a calendar invite from my mother. Brooke's vice president celebration, 6 p.m., the Onyx Room. No message. No, hope you can come. Just another demand for me to appear as part of their image. I went because I needed to see it one last time before I dismantled the machine. The venue fit their style. Excessive marble, giant chandeliers, and food that looked expensive but had no flavor. Brooke stood in the center, wearing a silk dress that probably cost more than my first car. She was glowing, telling people how she manifested her new VP position at a top PR firm. I stood by the bar with a club soda, watching her take credit for work I had done. They didn't know that 3 months earlier, I rewrote her resume. I built her portfolio website from scratch because she didn't know how to register a domain. I practiced interview questions with her while she painted her nails. But now, she was the mastermind, and I was invisible background noise. My father, Gary, tapped a spoon against a champagne glass. The room quieted. He played the part of proud father perfectly. Tan skin, big smile, wearing a suit I had paid for 2 years earlier. To my daughter Brooke, he announced, full of pride. She is the fire of this family, the visionary, the proof that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. People applauded. Then he looked at me. His smile stayed, but his eyes turned cold. And to Kelsey, our steady rock, always dependable. While Brooke reaches for success, Kelsey keeps our feet grounded. And we need people like that, don't we? Polite laughter drifted across the room. It was a clean public dismissal. He didn't just minimize me, he defined me as lesser. She was the star. I was the dirt holding the star up. I put my glass down. I was ready to leave when my father blocked me near the kitchen entrance. The smile was gone. He looked sweaty and anxious. There's a problem with the card, he whispered. The catering manager is being difficult. They need the final payment now or they'll stop the open bar. So pay them, I said plainly. I can't right now. There's a hold on my account. Bank mistake. He waved his hand like it was nothing. And Brooke's card is maxed from the dress. Just take care of it, Kelsey. I'll reimburse you Monday. Handle it. That was my whole life summarized. Handle the mortgage, handle the debt, handle the illusion. How much? I asked. $4,500. I looked at the same man who had thrown my childhood belongings into garbage bags a week ago. He wasn't embarrassed. He expected this. To him, this was normal. I pay. They shine. Okay, I said. No argument. No plea. I walked to the manager's desk, pulled out my card, and paid the bill. When the receipt printed, I didn't toss it. I flattened it neatly, took a clear photo, and emailed it to myself. Everything all right? The manager asked. Perfect, I replied. Just keeping records. My father saw me return and gave a small nod, not a thank you, just an acknowledgement that the machine was functioning again. I looked at Brooke laughing with her friends, totally unaware that her celebration was being funded by the sister she had pushed out of the family. I didn't say goodbye. I walked out into the night air. That $4,500 wasn't a gift. It was the official cost of my exit. They thought I was the rock holding them steady. They were about to learn what happens when the rock decides to move. That night, I didn't sleep. I strategized. But my battlefield wasn't their living room. It was the spreadsheet glowing on my dual monitor setup at home. I made coffee, cracked my knuckles, and stopped being Kelsey, the compliant daughter. I became Kelsey, the forensic analyst. I pulled bank statements from the last 10 years. I accessed the shared cloud folder my father once gave me access to so I could fix the printer. He never bothered to change the password. I downloaded everything: tax returns, credit card statements, mortgage files. I examined every transaction, mapping out the pattern of their financial manipulation. It was disturbing and predictable. I saw the $20,000 business loan I gave them listed casually in their notes as Kelsey's contribution. I traced the money. It didn't go to a consulting firm. It went to a luxury Mediterranean cruise, the same one they claimed they won in a raffle. I saw Brooke's tuition payments. I saw the lease for a Range Rover I wasn't allowed to drive. I saw $500 meals on nights when I was eating expired yogurt to save for replacement tires. They weren't draining me to survive. They were draining me to maintain a facade. The total at the bottom of the spreadsheet glowed in red: $263,000. That was the cost of being unseen. But I wasn't finished. I checked public records. I needed to know what assets remained. I pulled the title on the family house, the 4-bedroom colonial in the nice neighborhood, the one they shoved me out of. And then I found the bomb. A lien. A second mortgage taken out 3 years ago. High interest, predatory terms. Where did the money go? I matched the dates with their social media posts. There it was, a Lake Tahoe vacation cabin they claimed belonged to a friend. It didn't. They bought it using the equity from the family home. And they hadn't paid the main mortgage in 4 months. I stared at the notice. 30 days from foreclosure. They weren't just unkind. They were bankrupt. They were celebrating on the edge of a cliff while asking me to cover the bar tab. The old Kelsey would have panicked. She would have drained her retirement account or begged for loans to rescue them. But the old me was gone. 6 months earlier, I had sold my logistics software startup for $90 million, a detail they never knew because they never cared to ask. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer, Marcus. It was 3 a.m., but he answered immediately. Kelsey, everything all right? I need to make an acquisition, I said calmly. First thing in the morning, I want to buy a distressed debt portfolio, specifically the residential mortgage note for a property owned by First National Bank. I gave him the address. Isn't that your parents' house? Marcus asked, hesitant. It is, I said. They're in default. The bank is about to auction it. I want the note before it hits the market. Kelsey, if I do this, I said, finishing the thought for him, I become their lender. Their debt becomes mine to control. Marcus exhaled slowly. This isn't a small move, Kelsey. This is personal. It's strategic, I corrected, and it's overdue. He paused, then said, I'll have the paperwork started before sunrise. I ended the call and sat back in my chair. My hands weren't shaking. My breathing was steady. I wasn't acting out of anger. I was acting out of clarity. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the family safety net. I was the architect of my own boundaries. By noon, Marcus confirmed what I already anticipated. The bank was thrilled to unload the non-performing mortgage. I acquired the full note for a fraction of its actual value. A shell company, Iridian Holdings, became the official lien holder. And overnight, I became my parents' new creditor. No one told them. They didn't check the mail. They didn't read the formal notice sent to their address. They had grown used to ignoring problems until I fixed them. 3 days later, the texts began. Mom, sweetheart, can you come by this weekend? We need to talk. Dad, call me. Important. Brooke, Mom is freaking out. Whatever you did, undo it. I didn't respond. A week passed before they finally understood. A bright yellow envelope on their door spelled it out plainly. Iridian Holdings, notice of intent to foreclose. They called me nonstop. 47 missed calls from my mother. 21 from my father. 11 voice messages from Brooke. I didn't listen to a single one. Instead, I scheduled the final step, a property inspection. All lenders do it before filing the foreclosure motion. I arrived at the house, the same house where I grew up, on a clear Monday morning. The inspector walked the perimeter. I stood near the mailbox. My mother flung open the door the moment she saw me. Her face was red, furious, panicked. What is this? She shrieked, waving the notice in her hand. Why is some company threatening to take our home? My father stood behind her, silent, his face pale. I stayed calm. Because you're 4 months behind on your payments. We were waiting for the bank to fix a mistake, she snapped. There was no mistake, I said evenly. The loan was sold. Iridian Holdings owns your mortgage now. My father stepped forward. Then you need to call them. You need to fix this, Kelsey. Tell them to stop. I held his gaze. I can't. My mother's voice cracked. Why not? Because, I said, I am Iridian Holdings. The silence that followed was absolute. It was the first time in my life I watched their confidence drain completely. My mother's hands trembled. You did this to us? No, I replied. You did this to yourselves. I just stopped shielding you from the consequences. Brooke appeared in the doorway, mascara smudged. You're going to take our house? Over what? Some money? Over 10 years of being used, I said. Over being treated like a wallet instead of a daughter. Over being thrown out of my own room so you could build a closet. My father's voice sharpened. We're your family. You owe us. I interrupted him for the first time in my entire life. I don't owe you anything. He blinked, stunned. I covered your debts, your vacations, your image. I paid your bills, your leases, your dinners, your emergencies. You never said thank you. You never asked if I could afford it. You only demanded more. My mother's voice softened, switching tactics. Honey, we didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't think about me at all, I said. And now, for the first time, I'm thinking about myself. I handed them the packet of documents. You have 30 days to either refinance through another lender or vacate the property. I'm following the law. Exactly the way you expected me to follow your rules all these years. Brooke whispered, You're ruining this family. I looked at her. This family was ruined long before I ever fought back. I'm just ending the cycle. My mother broke down crying. My father stared at the ground. Brooke stormed inside, slamming the door. I turned and walked toward my car as the inspector finished. Everything good, Miss Hale? He called out. Perfect, I replied, and I meant it. That was the day I finally stopped being their foundation and became my own.